I drove home from the hospital with a message for my 3 daughters that they would never again see their mom.
I felt like a walking tomb, my only purpose to house death.
No matter how many TV shows or movies that you've seen where people receive devastating news, you can't quite prepare yourself to hear that news in real life.
My wife Jen told me on Monday morning that she hadn't felt the baby kick for a while. So we drove to the hospital together, but the truth was that we both already knew.
If it had been up to me, this was not the life story I would have written.
I remember the years of my twin sisters' silent suffering, chronic pain without remedy.
When I left for college, I felt like I was abandoning my mom to be cared for by a man who had grown to resent her deeply, and I was afraid my dad would collapse under the stress.
Lab tests came back and said that I would need another kidney transplant. Doctors told us that I would wait on dialysis for 10 to 15 years. Caitlin and I went out to the car and we sat there and we just wept.
I remember feeling confused and shocked, but at the same time there was a really sweet sense of peace as we gathered together, friends and family, in that ICU room to say goodbye to my husband.
I think the thing that surprised me right out of the gate becoming pastor of the village was the sheer volume of brokenness and despair that we encountered in those early years. It was, up until that point in my life, it had been all weddings and no funerals. And then here I come to this church that's young and vibrant, and I found out that through this funeral or this tragedy or this broken moment that we didn't have a theological category for the kind of suffering we were enduring. And so I began to kind of theologically help try to train and help through teaching and preaching and seminars, just trying to help us make sense of life in a fallen world. And then in 2009, I had a seizure on Thanksgiving morning and was rushed to the hospital. Come to find out a couple of weeks later, I had what's called anaplastic oligodendroglioma, a kind of terminal malignant brain cancer that was supposedly going to take my life in the next 2 to 3 years. And then it was my turn to stand on the precipice and peer over at eternity. And so this book is, yes, about my own story, about what the Holy Spirit did in me, about what I learned, but more than that, it's about the stories of these dear brothers and sisters as they endured, as they experienced the presence of God in their sorrows, and as the Spirit even brought joy in the midst of their sorrows. I think this book would be really helpful as we consider what to do with loss and sorrow here on this fallen world.